All right, everybody, welcome back. This is the Horn Takes podcast. You're very, very rough around the edges. Texas sports talk destination. I'm surprised nobody's asked me what I mean by that. I mean a couple of things by that. One, I'm not like a professional media guy, so that's one. So a lot of times the show can get rough, and a lot of times, I build an outline, but I stray from my outline. But I can do that because I'm tied to nothing. So we're a little rough about that. And then a lot of times we just have some things to say that a lot of people don't want to hear, whether we're talking about Texas sports, whether we're talking about sports in general, just general topics. We've had a lot of things to say about a lot of stuff, a lot of controversial things maybe. And I tend to not always be on the same side as a lot of people, and I'm comfortable with that. So I'm pretty rough around the edges as far as that goes. Also, I say a lot of cuss words a lot of the times, especially during football season. I get fired up on this show, and I kind of let my mouth get away from me. You guys just got to give me some grace on that. Played football for a lot of years. Was in the military. So, yeah, man, I just I'm a little more crass than most folks. Anyway, I'm your host, Sean Redfern. It's Friday Eve again. It seems like these weeks are just rolling by, and I want them to slow down a little bit because baseball, I love me some baseball. I don't want baseball to just completely disappear on us, and then we're stuck in like this hellhole between college baseball season and college football season where it's just hard to get really excited. Like, I love my Rangers. I watch them when I can. And I want them to win. I get excited when they win. But I don't get mad when they lose. I just go, it's one of 162 games. But if Texas could play 6,000 games, they lose one, I'm pissed. So time's got to slow down a little bit, but also at the same time, I want to get to football season. So it's crazy. We're crazy humans. We want what we can't have, and then we complain when we get it. We'll talk about some Hardwood Horns today. Gotta give a little shout out to that ladies basketball team. We'll talk Texas baseball. We got a little bit of Texas football to talk about. And then probably the topic that's going to go a long time, and it'll be rough around the edges, is this whole racism and sports shit that just like keeps getting perpetuated. And just, man, I hate it. I hate it so bad. We'll talk about that. We'll have some examples of what I'm talking about. Check us out on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube at Horn Takes. If you just like to listen to podcasts, you can do that at horntakespodcast.buzzsprout.com. That link is in my bio on YouTube. On TikTok and Twitter. Obviously, you can find me on YouTube pretty easy. Just search Horn Takes. You can find me on all three of those places just by searching Horn Takes. We're also on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. We are on iHeart. So you can check those podcasts out there as well. Hardwood Horns, Lady Horns we're going to be talking about. They fall short of that Final Four bid. Lose a tough one, 76-66 to NC State in the Elite Eight. I didn't watch the game. I didn't get a chance to watch it. But if the updates I was seeing online through Twitter and Horns 247, if they're any indication, anywhere close to being accurate, we must have missed a million layups in this game, which probably ultimately made the difference in the game. You can't miss layups. And we saw this with the Texas men's team a few years ago. They just absolutely could not make layups. I mean, it was like, and it was consistent with them. I don't think that's been a consistent problem for the ladies. But they couldn't do it, man. It consistently missed layups. And you just can't you cannot miss if you're standing right next to the basket. You got to be able to put the ball in the basket, get your 2 points, and go play defense. But apparently the ladies struggled against NC State. Now, there may have been reasons for that. The defense may have been really good. They might have been like off balance, weird type layup type shots. I don't know. Again, I didn't see the game. If someone wants to tell me from their perspective what that looked like, I'll be happy to listen to it. The ladies finished the season 33-5, which is outstanding. Not a bad run at all, especially when you consider the key loss of Rory Harmon back in December with a torn ACL. one of their better players. I mean, what they were able to do and kind of rally. I mean, a lot of people when she got hurt were talking, man, this Texas team, they're probably not going to be that good. And all they did was play themselves into a 1 seed. Played a lot of really good basketball all season long. They just could not get over that Elite Eight hump. Man, they've been to the Elite Eight. This is their 3rd Elite Eight appearance in 4 seasons. So that's outstanding, man. The ladies basketball program there at Texas doing a really good job. Vic Schaefer, he'll have them back, no doubt about it. There's a lot of folks returning. I think a lot of these ladies will be back. Some of them will move on. But there'll be a pretty good nucleus of players from this team will be back next season, and I think that bodes well for their chances next year. Maybe they stay healthy. Maybe they get over that Elite Eight hump and they make it to that Final Four. That'd be exciting for the ladies. Just a quick Texas basketball nugget, and this isn't really a Texas basketball nugget. Really, Trey Johnson had himself. He's a signee for Texas. 5-star McDonald's All-American type guy. I believe he's a shooting guard. Definitely a guard. He had himself a McDonald's All-American game. 5 of 7 from behind the arc. 17 points, 3 assists, 4 rebounds, 1 steal. And we all know the Texas men need a lot of help next season. I mean, this guy's probably going to come in and make an impact absolutely immediately. I think the question is, can Rodney Terry build some guys around him to sort of complement him? Can he find some guys that can play with Trey Johnson and make that a really solid, 5, 6, 7 players for this Texas basketball team? Because, man, you talk about losing some folks. Texas basketball, the men's team, is losing a lot of people. So, again, congratulations to those ladies. Men, y'all got to rebuild, but you got a good guy to rebuild around. Let's see if Rodney Terry can get it done in year 2.5? He's been the coach since December of not last year, the year before that. So he has 1 full season and about a half a season under his belt, a little more than half a season. Lots of talk all season long about getting rid of Rodney Terry. I don't know. My only deal with that, and I've said it before on the show, I wish we would have just maybe done some due diligence. I'm not saying we couldn't hire him. Just see who's out there, and that it almost didn't seem like that happened. Almost like CDC was kind of painted into a corner, and he just, he could not ignore the fact that Rodney Terry took that team to the Elite Eight last year. Not a bad run at all. I mean, there was times this year where Texas basketball was frustrating. Is what it is. Texas baseball sitting at 18-11, not great. 6-3 in the Big 12. That's good enough for second. They're a game back of the Oklahoma Sooners, and they still got to go up to Norman to play a series against Oklahoma. That may end up being a really important series later on down the line in Big 12 play. What was absolutely an important series was heading up to Kansas, Manhattan, Kansas, last weekend to take on K-State. K-State at the time ranked 23rd. Anytime you go on a road, it's tough. It's not the same as playing at home. And so you want to go perform well. I think Texas had a 4 or 5 Big 12 series win streak going. They've won that many series in a row, dating back to last season. Kind of a pivotal moment for this Texas team, right? So they head up there, and they drop game 1, 14-6, and just kind of an absolute. I mean, they basically lost that game in 1/2 inning. They had a 3-0 lead going into the bottom of the second inning, and just the freaking wheels came right the fuck off of that ride. 5 hits, 5 walks, a wild pitch, and an error produced 8 runs for Kansas State there in the second inning. I mean, it was a disaster. They were throwing the ball all over the damn place. The pitchers couldn't even freaking hit the mitt. LBJ goes 1 inning. 1 inning. You go back, just a few weeks ago, we're talking about how LBJ is like the single shining light of this Texas pitching staff from a starting perspective. and he goes 1 inning in a Big 12 series opener. So that was rough. And Texas fans absolutely lost their collective shit on the line. I'm talking like people think that Rodney Terry was getting like roughed up on the line. David Pierce, that Thursday night and that Friday during the day before they played game 2, was getting his ass taxed by Texas fans, again on the line. And we all know, everybody on the line don't know what they're talking about. A lot of people get online and they vent, right? That's okay. I do the same shit. Like I did a TikTok. I was going back through some of my TikToks that I did right after that K-State game. And there was one where I said that wasn't a good start, but I think this team's gonna kind of, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Anyways, this one guy was like, this Texas team will be below 500, mark my words. And I got to admit, at the time, before they played those next 2 games, and we've even talked about it, we've said this team at points this year has looked a lot like that, was it 2019 team, I think? They just barely, I think they were 500. If they were above 500, it wasn't by much. And it's just the inconsistency of it. And so I gave the guy a break. I'm like, man, this guy's a fan. He's just being a fanatic, and fanatics are up with the ups and they're down with the downs. I think a lot of people can't feel that. A lot of people are, I don't know, like they're more analytic about it. You see some guys on Twitter, especially, really giving people the business for just kind of venting about the loss. And so it was a really interesting, maybe 24 hours on Twitter. Then they go out on Friday, win game 2, 21-11. And I guess it was a really interesting, like legit really interesting 24 to 36 hours on Twitter. If you happen to just see a lot of Texas stuff, and it happened to be baseball stuff, the police came out and really let the guys that were giving David Pierce the business have the business about being bad fans and all this other kind of crazy shit. I'm not going to name no names, but and actually, I'm proud of myself. I wasn't like, fire Pierce. Oh, this is crazy. We got to get Pierce out of here. I think I was so like, just absolutely like, so I was at my son's baseball game Thursday night, and I'm listening while I'm watching the game. I had to turn it off, man. I had to turn it off and find the Ranger game to listen to their opening day game, because it was just brutal. So I think I was like so sad, like just so demoralized by that loss that I couldn't even like go online and talk shit. So I saved myself from that. Anyway, Texas bounces back, 21-11 win in game 2. It was tied at 11 in the 7th inning, and then Texas scored 3, I believe, in the 8th, and then they had a 7-run inning in the 9th to just absolutely blow that one open. 4 doubles, 4 home runs by Texas hitters in this one. I would say it wasn't a great outing for Boogie Whitehead, but it was good enough. And I'll say this, he went 5 1/3. If Boogie Whitehead's not great games are 5 1/3, I'm okay with that. We just got to get innings out of the starters. Like, the starters have to be able to maintain long enough for those bats to work and to save that bullpen. And we'll talk about that a little later too. And then they go in on Saturday, win the rubber match 6-3. Max Grubbs, who's 4-0, by the way. Just, that was interesting when I was going back and looking at all the stats for these games. He's 4-0. He gave Texas 6 really good innings. And that's what 5 or 6 innings. 6 is perfect. 7 would be like amazing. Anything past 7 is like gravy. 5 is good enough. Get you through halfway through the game and then let the bullpen take over. I like getting 6 because you get 2/3 of the way through the game. Bats were a little quieter on Saturday. Not a single horn hitter on Saturday got more than 1 hit. But their hits were really timely, and there was folks on base. 4 of their 6 hits produced runs. They basically got them on, got them around, and got them home, and that's I mean, you hear that shit. You go to any Little League baseball game, all the way on up, and you're going to hear, get them on, get them around, get them home. Augie Garrido was, that was basically, I don't know, like, get them on, get them around, and get them home is basically like the mission statement of Augie Ball. And then again, Texas fans go at it. Texas fans absolutely go at it on the line. You got the ones that were really distraught and very vocal about that on Thursday night and Friday throughout the day. You had the ones that jumped in and said, you can't be a fan if you're going to do that. And then it just became like, just a brawl. Like, Texas fans will really turn on each other in like a fucking heartbeat. I wouldn't be surprised if some of these people were like best friends and then just fucking like ruined it all with one tweet about, like, I don't know, David Pierce, you got to go, dude. I don't know. Craziest shit I've ever seen. I haven't been on Twitter that long, though. I'm still like a Twitter baby. I think I got on. I started a Twitter maybe about this time last year, but I really didn't spend a lot of time on there until summer, like kind of right before football season started. So I'm still a Twitter baby, but it was pretty wild. Midweek against Abilene Christian Tuesday night, 11-1 win. They looked really good in that one. 2 doubles, 3 home runs, 2 swipe bags. I think Chase Loomis had a solid start. Not a great, not even good really probably, but it was solid, 3 2/3. Easton Tumas came in right after him and looked really, really good. And I thought, he looked outstanding. Might have been the best he's looked all season. I thought he was going to really put in a good set of innings in relief, but he sat too long there in the bottom of the 5th while Texas sent 13 batters to the plate, scored 8 runs. And so I think Pierce did the smart thing. Like, he sat way too long. You can't trot him back out there, risk injury, risk whatever. It's just not even worth it. So it kind of became like bullpen by shoot, I can't even remember what the saying is. Anyway, a lot of dudes pitched about an inning apiece the rest of that game. And those are the types of games you got to win. Texas is not ranked right now. They have been ranked earlier in the season. They have played okay against some highly rated teams. They've let some games get away from them. I think the midweeks, they've really only lost 2 midweeks. I think they've only lost 2 midweeks. One of them was Texas A&M. I think that one's defensible. I don't know what they're ranked this week, but I've seen them as high as 4, and I've seen people talk about how they deserve to be the number 1 ranked team in the country. I don't know. So I think, losing a midweek is defensible there. But you cannot lose to A&M Corpus Christi, and Texas did that. And so I think the reason they're not ranked right now is because of that, honestly. So they got to win the rest of these midweek games against scrubs, and that'll be tough. We'll talk about who they've got coming up. State of the program. I was just talking about it earlier. I did a TikTok Friday after that dumpster fire game, and I said, man, this team just has a lot of really high highs, but they also have a lot of really low lows. They're inconsistent, right? We don't know what we're going to see. And I said, I feel like at some point in the next few games, I just don't think you can stay inconsistent like that long. Like, at some point, either you're going to veer over to the side where the good shows up a lot more than the bad, or you're going to veer off to the side where the bad shows up a lot more than the good. And that'll kind of dictate what your season looks like. We have seen this team play really good, and we've seen them play really bad. I just don't think you can consistently bounce back and forth between that. At some point, something happens, and you go one way or the other, right? So I said that. I think in the next few games, they're going to kind of start either personifying those highs or personifying those lows, and that's how the season's going to wind up going. I said on the show last week, I said, man, I think it was last week, maybe in the week before, this team, at this point, to me, could go deep into the College World Series, like actually at Omaha, because I think they're like super talented. I mean, they've got some talent on that team. Or they could just completely not even make the tournament. That is at a week, 2 weeks ago, that's the type of team I saw when they took the field. So we'll see how this weekend goes. I mean, I think they've got a pretty decent shot of sweeping BYU. I mean, if you really step back and look at it, they should absolutely sweep BYU. If they could do that, man, that's what I mean, I think they've won 8 of their last 11 games. They've won 3 straight. That would be 6 straight. I think that would be enough to pull them back into the top 25. I really like the response they gave in Manhattan. I mean, that game 1 loss was pretty embarrassing. Just the way it happened. Not even the score. The score wasn't that bad. But just the way it happened. They just were so I mean, you're listening on the radio, and K-State has that big, second inning where they get 8 runs. And for the next 2 or 3 innings, when Texas hitters came to the plate, it was 1, 2, 3 done. I mean, it was like just completely not competitive. I mean, they got embarrassed. So we'll see how this weekend works out. I think they're on the right trajectory. We're gonna see. I think the starting pitching is absolutely set. We need LBJ to shake off that Thursday in Manhattan. He'll do that tonight. I mean, I think that was only his only bad outing all season. But this starting rotation of LBJ, Boogie Whitehead, Max Grubbs is giving Texas innings. And from a starting pitching perspective, you don't have to be perfect. Nobody expects a starting pitcher to be perfect. They just want them to go 5-6 innings. Give that offense time to get going. Put some points up, put some runs up on the board, and then turn it over to the bullpen with not, 2/3 of the game left to try to go win it. You just you cannot do that over and over. There's not enough kids in the bullpen. Even if every single one of them was just dynamite, you just don't have enough to keep trotting them out there like they have to in some of these games where the starting pitching just doesn't do well at all. Talk about the lineup. It seems like the Jack O'Dowd experiment is done for the season. I mean, he's got a couple of pinch hit opportunities lately, which he hasn't done well in. But he hasn't been in the lineup as a starter in a while. And man, he was just really struggling at the plate. It's hard. It is very hard to keep guys in the lineup, especially if they're not like a super plus defensive player. It's really hard to keep them in the lineup if they're just not hitting at all. And he was not. I mean, I think his average before he sat down, like 150 something, 154 was his season. I mean, that ain't going to cut it. But they're turning into these long ball Longhorns. I like that. The long ball Longhorns is what this lineup is. And love him or hate him, David Pierce has definitely improved Texas's ability to hit with power since getting to Texas. He's already got one team that set the record for home runs. Blew it away. Just completely destroyed the single season home run record. This team already has 58. This team is like 11th in the nation, I believe, in home runs. They're on pace for 110, and that's if they don't play a single game past the regular season. I believe they played 29 games. There's 26 games left in the regular season. 2 home runs a game. That's 52 more. That's 110. 110 bombs. And the other thing to keep in mind is Dish Falk Field is not as big as it used to be. They've brought the fences in a little bit, but it's still a big place. It is not Rip Griffin Park over on Texas Tech's campus. They got 6 hitters over the 300 mark. Jarrett Thomas is leading them all. 415. He's just killing it. 2 of the 3 that aren't above 300 are true freshmen and have been above 300 at times this year. And then we're still sitting here waiting for Porter Brown. Porter Brown is like another guy that I go, man, like, how much longer can you keep trotting him out there? He's just struggling so bad. So bad. We used to talk about Dylan Campbell, how he would start the season off so rough almost every season. And then by the end of the season, you couldn't get him out. Couldn't keep him in the park. You couldn't get him out. I mean, maybe Porter Brown's building towards that. I don't know. The thing with Porter Brown, to me, he's not like a plus fielder. I don't even think he's like probably an average fielder. He's in the lineup because he can hit. That's what David Pierce is thinking. I got to get this guy in the lineup because he can hit. He's not a great fielder. Let's put it. I'm not saying he's bad, but he's not like a superior outfielder. The thing is, though, I don't know if there's anybody else on that roster that could, be much better, either at the plate or out in the field. Not sure. I'm not saying there's not. So yeah, man, this team. What do I think they're going to do? I'm pretty confident now that they're going to make postseason. I'm pretty confident of that. Whereas a week or two ago, I was like, I don't know, man, this team could wind up not even making it. But can they be that dangerous team? I mean, if those starters can protect that bullpen consistently, they're not going to do it every time, but consistently. And if the offense can stay somewhat consistently potent, I mean, I think this is a team that could be dangerous in the NCAA tournament. I think it's a team that could wind up in Omaha and maybe have a little something to say in Omaha. I don't know if this is a national championship team. I think probably not. I just don't think they have enough arms in that bullpen to be that. But I certainly feel like they have enough arms to get to Omaha. And then who knows? Man, who knows, man? We saw that Fresno State team that year just all of a sudden, at least my recollection, I mean, they were scoring like double-digit runs in every single game at the College World Series. That's probably like completely a lie. I just remember them knocking the freaking cover off the ball a lot, and everybody was like, what the hell? How did Fresno State get here, and now how are they doing what they're doing? BYU comes to town this weekend. That'll be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, because the Cougars do not play on Sunday. They go tonight at 6:30 p.m., Friday at 7:30 p.m., and Saturday at 2:30 p.m. All games on Longhorn Network and the Longhorn Radio Network. We've talked about it. Craig Way, man, he's the man. But I did not know that our friend Hardball Harge from AM 1300 The Zone, he's calling a lot of these games with Craig Way. So we'll be tuning in tomorrow night for sure on the radio because we've got a baseball game. Son's got a baseball game. So I'll have the earbud in. I'll be tuned in on the Longhorn Radio Network. By the way, you don't have to be on a radio, like an actual radio. I hope everybody knows that. Like, I hope everybody understands that you don't actually have to have a radio anymore to listen to radio broadcasts of sporting events. There was a time, and I remember when I was a kid, it was like, I mean, shit. Not even when I was a kid. When I was in college, it was like that. They just didn't have streaming radio. But now you can stream it, folks. You can go to texassports.com. You can click on baseball, click on the schedule, scroll down till you see BYU, and you can click the little listen button. And then it'll pop up a menu that'll show all the games that are live. It'll probably be possibly a softball game with the baseball game. Just click the baseball game and bam, Craig Way, Hardball Harge, be coming through your speakers, folks. It's a good listen. If you can't be there, second best way to enjoy Texas baseball is if you can't watch it, listen to it on the Longhorn Radio Network. And then they got a midweek after that against Texas State. And Texas State has already broke Texas's heart once this season down at the Astros Classic, whatever, the Astros Foundation College Classic. That was the game. That was the Saturday game where Texas got behind quick and then just kind of battled their way back the entire game. They tie it, Texas State would go up. They tie it again, Texas State would go up. Finally, I think it was the 8th inning, they finally got the freaking lead, 10-9, I believe. They get 2 outs in the 9th and then give up a 2-run bomb. Texas State walks them off. So Texas State is not scared of Texas at all whatsoever. Texas will be looking to kind of get some payback, maybe win 2 games. And by the way, this is a 2-game midweek series, which I hate those. I think it's neat that Texas State and Texas do this. I just hate it because it's too much. I mean, I feel like it's too much baseball. I feel like when you play a non-conference 2-game midweek series, you put yourself in a really bad position for your weekend series, which is going to be a conference series. I would prefer these things earlier in the season is what I'm getting at, not during conference play. I don't know what David Pierce's thoughts on that are, or if they had a choice. But I think it's neat that they do it. The way they do it, Tuesday at 6 p.m. they'll be at Texas State, and that'll be on ESPN Plus. And then Wednesday at 7 p.m. they'll be back in Austin. And these schools are 30 minutes apart, I'm pretty sure. Something like that. It's not an hour for sure. I could be wrong about that. It might be an hour. I don't think so, though. I mean, I think they're relatively close. They're a bus ride away. But Wednesday's game will be on LHN. Again, both of them on the Longhorn Radio Network. Check that out if you can't watch it. So we're looking to see Texas. I think success this weekend obviously is win the series against BYU. Above that would be great. You know, I think they can sweep them. They should go sweep them. And then I would like to see them take 2 from Texas State. I would like to see them go 5 straight. And I think if they do that, then we're kind of, I feel good about my prognostication where I said this team's going to veer one way or the other. And I'll be happy that they're veering the right way, which is getting better, right? Playing well. I was checking out Twitter actually I got tagged in it. I got tagged. Our friends over at SEC Sports Unfiltered. For those of you that don't know, Chris Phillips, I don't know if he's like the main dude or if he's got partners. I mean, I think he's the original main dude, but I don't know if he's got partners or how all that's working out from a business perspective. But Chris Phillips used to do the Spurs Up Show, big Gamecock guy, baseball, basketball, football. He invited me out of the blue one day to come and talk on his show about Texas joining the SEC. We had a great time talking to Chris. But he built a great sort of fan base following for the Spurs Up Show. And then all of a sudden, I'm seeing all this stuff about SEC Sports Unfiltered. And I'm like, what the hell? You know, what is going on? So I reached out to Chris and I said, dude, did you just flip? I mean, or what do we got going on here? And he said, man, I don't even know the background of it necessarily, but I think he just wanted to expand and be more of a SEC, more of a show and a platform that covers all of the SEC sports. So he's been doing that. He's been having guys, lots of guys on his show there to talk about various things. And Texas comes up all the time, as it should. And he tags me in a deal the other day, a little clip from one of his shows. And this guy, Cole Thompson, I don't know him. He's talking about Texas, and he says Texas is going to have 2 1,000-yard wide receivers in 2024. And I said, man, I don't know about that. I mean, that's impressive, right? 'Cause check this out. I think Texas has had roughly, I couldn't find like completely updated stats on this, but I think Texas has only had like 10 wide receivers go over 1,000 in their entire history. And they've never had 2 in the same season. I don't even think, I was trying to find it because I'm really interested. And if somebody knows where I can find this, please let me know. I don't know how many teams have had 2 guys go over 1,000. I mean, that's pretty impressive in college football. I'm sure it's happened. I just don't know how much. I mean, I would assume that's pretty rare. So I tweeted him back. He tagged me in it. I tweeted back. I said, man, I think if Texas has two guys go over 1,000 at the wide receiver position, I think Steve Sarkisian is hoisting some hardware in January of next year. So we'll see. We'll see if that prediction by them comes true. We'll see if that leads to Texas hoisting some hardware. There's certainly lots of talent in place. You got Jonte Cook and DeAndre Moore. Those two guys were with the program last year. Ryan Niblett as well. That's a lot of talent. Ryan Niblett can fly. There's a lot of speed on these Texas teams the last two seasons. Ryan Niblett can smoke. Ryan Niblett can run down the field. So those three guys right there, Jonte Cook is the returning leader from a wide receiver perspective. I think he's got like 116 yards receiving. No touchdowns, I don't think. Maybe one. Can't remember. I'm pretty sure none. DeAndre Moore didn't play a whole lot last season. Ryan Niblett did not play last season. And then you look at their recruiting class. You got Ryan Wingo, who's the sort of the centerpiece, the big 5-star guy. Freddie Dubose, Parker Livingstone. Aaron Butler's a guy they flipped real late in the process, like the week of National Signing Day. I've heard a lot about Ryan Wingo. Matter of fact, Steve Sarkisian has gone out of his way to talk about how good Ryan Wingo is and kind of the impact he's having on practice. And then I've heard some good stuff about Aaron Butler as well. So that 2023 class looks like, there's some guys that have showed up already in spring, and they're doing some things that are getting them noticed. And then Sark goes out in the transfer portal. Matthew Golden, Isaiah Bond, and then Silas Bolden is on the way from Oregon State. He's got to finish school up there, and then he'll be back. He'll be down in the summer. Those three guys can fly. There's a lot of production from those three guys. So just a absolute wealth of talent from a wide receiver perspective for this Texas team. And then you look at like Quinn Ewers. I mean, this is his third year at Texas. If he sees anywhere close to a similar type of jump in production and just ability to work inside the offense and execute inside the offense from 23 to 24 that we saw him have from 22 to 23, I absolutely think 2 1,000-yard wide receivers is completely possible for Texas. Will it happen? I have no idea. I mean, I almost feel like, man, it'd be crazy, but like, is 3 possible? Probably not. But good grief, man. There's a lot of talent there at their disposal. So yeah, Texas, I think they're on their 8th practice of 15, or they've completed 8 of 15 practices. They're going to scrimmage on Saturday. I'm sure they'll be throwing the pads on for that. We just always hope during all this spring stuff that people stay healthy. It is such football is so much different today than it used to be. I think even at the big time collegiate level, it's just so much different. It's gotten so complicated. I think used to, if you were just like a really talented, physically talented guy, you could miss some time with injury, and it probably wouldn't set you back that far. But I think the game of football has gotten so technical, and the schemes and the coaching and the game plan so technical that if you miss some time, and it really, really sets you back, and it's hard even for like outstanding players to find their way back to where they were before the injury. So all that being said, I hope we stay healthy through this scrimmage. I think there's another scrimmage before they do the spring game. We'll be excited to see that spring game. I'll tell you that. Like Steve Sarkisian said the other day, or maybe today, said it sometime here recently. I mean, they're rocking 3 deep at every position. And you look at the roster when he got here, and the fact that just 3 years later, he's in that type of situation. That's amazing. Big time credit to him and the coaching staff. Big time credit to the players. We always talk about development. And I think so many people look at development from the coach's perspective. The coach has got to go develop them. No, folks, the players have just as much input into whether they're developed or not as the coaches do. The coaches can point you in the right direction. They can teach you the right things, but they can't make you do all those little extra things that you have to go do if you really want to develop yourself. You really want to become sort of the best you can be. Players got to be bought into that too. And I think that's on the staff to get them in that right mindset. And I think Steve Sarkisian and this staff have this Texas program, all those guys on board with that. It doesn't all you got to do is put some dudes in the league. Bring some guys in and develop them and get them in the league. And then people just want to be a part of that. And so that's what you're starting to see at the University of Texas. So now, folks, I try to stay away from this political crap. I really do. I don't like to talk about politics. I don't like to talk about anything kind of related to that, especially on this show for a lot of reasons. I think politics is like kind of ripping this country apart. I think what it's become has just kind of ripped this country all to shreds. I mean, does anybody else like long for the days when you didn't know who people voted for because they just didn't talk about it? It like wasn't 90% of who they are. Like I remember as a kid kind of asking my grandparents one time. I don't even remember the election, but they were talking about it on the local news. And they were talking about the election. I asked my grandparents, who you guys voting for? And you know what they told me? They said, you're not really supposed to talk about who you vote for. That's kind of like a personal decision that you have. That's kind of a deal that's between you and you, not everybody in the world. And today, it is just not like that. People have literally made who they support from a political perspective an identity. It's like who they are. And I can't stand it. And secondly, this is a Texas sports podcast. I mainly talk about Texas sports, and I don't feel like there's a ton of political crap that goes along with that. Every once in a while, though, there will be topics that come up that are college sports related that have kind of gotten a little ridiculous. And I've touched on this one before. I've talked about it a couple times in the past, and I just feel like, and I think about these things. I'm not like one of these like fly off the handle, you're wrong type of people. I legitimately try to sit down and think through some of these things and test my initial reaction, right? We all have initial reactions to whatever people say, but I think what makes people wise is the ability to kind of step back, think through it, and go, was I right? Am I on the right track or am I wrong? Too many people think they're right, and they were not willing to budge even the slightest bit, and they're not even willing to even consider other perspectives. And I try not to be like that, and I think I've been like that with this one. But folks, there is like this relatively new, and I say it's been going on for a while, but there's like this relatively new movement in sports media to call like every negative thing that happens to black athletes racism. I mean, you look at Colin Kaepernick, look at LeBron James, you look at Coach Prime, and now Angel Reese. Those are just 4 examples, and I'm sure there's several more where there's been a lot of backlash against those people for things they've done, right? Like things that people just don't like, things they've said, things they've done, like stances they've taken, right? Maybe it's not even that. Maybe it's just the overall the way they are. You know, people sometimes don't like certain people, like certain actions, certain stances. So for all of those 4 of those guys, it's all in the media's eyes. There's no substance to anybody's arguments against them. It's racism. And then any positive talk now about certain white athletes has become racism. And Caitlin Clark is a perfect example of that. Paul Pierce, and I'm sure I'm missing other examples, but Paul Pierce kind of embarrassed himself, in my opinion, on some show saying, I can't believe this little white girl, went and did this to a bunch of black women, talking about how, Caitlin Clark Caitlin Clark is a very good basketball player. And then Jamel Hill says, well, the only reason people are talking about Caitlin Clark is because she's white. And they have to have a white hero, you know? And I'm like, no, like people are talking about Caitlin Clark because she's the best women's basketball player. And like, and she kind of went on to say something like, you know, for black athletes, especially women, it can't just be like being really good is not enough. Like they have to do something more to get talked about, was like the way Caitlin Clark is getting talked about, which to me just is like absurd. Like it's just absolutely ridiculous. People are talking about Caitlin Clark because she's the best women's basketball player this year. And she was probably the best women's basketball player last year. She's been the most consistently like good basketball player in women's basketball. That's why people are talking about her. I mean, I didn't watch the Iowa and LSU game, but again, through Twitter, you see updates and stuff. Caitlin Clark must have been making it rain. I mean, because it sounded like she scored. It sounded like, just if you read through the tweets, like she won that game by herself against LSU. That's absolutely not true. She absolutely had help from her teammates. Point being, she had a really outstanding game in a big game. And then this dude named Mark Lamont Hill says they, and I don't know who he's talking about when he says they. Anytime someone says they, and I just feel like that's lazy, because you can't, like, who is they? If you haven't already pointed out who they is, you can't say they, because then you're just trying to like paint everybody into whatever you're trying to paint them into. And life just doesn't work that way. You can't, if you want to say that guy, and then follow that up with they, okay. But you can't start your sentence out with they. I don't even know who they is, but he says they need a white hero and a black villain, and Angel Reese is the black villain, and Caitlin Clark is the white hero. I personally don't care either way. So again, you can't just say they. It's just, to me, it's really lazy. It really just ignores a lot of other factors when you try to boil all these things down to race. So can we just not do that? Like, can we stop doing this in sports media? And as fans of sports, can we stop patronizing these sports media personalities or whatever they are? That's all they want to do is like make everything about race. Man, I see whites, blacks, Hispanics, Asians, whatever else on sports teams all the time that get along just fine. Like there doesn't have to be, like, I think in some cases these people, I mean, they realize they're different, right? Like a white dude sitting next to a black dude, they're going to go, yeah, like he's way darker than me. They're going to notice that, but I think most people don't. When people say I don't see color, I don't think they're literally saying like I don't see color. Because of course you see color. Like, of course you know. I'm white, man. I'm pale as hell. I know this dude over here that's black is black. He's darker than me. I just think what they're trying to say is that it doesn't matter to them. Like, they don't look at that person and go, oh, he's black, he's different. Or he's less than me. I just feel like most people don't do that. And the reason I feel like that is because, man, I've been on I was on a high school football team in the mid-90s. And I don't know what the breakdown at our school was exactly. I mean, if I had to guess, I would say maybe like 40 to 45% white, like 35% black. And that was certainly the case on the football team. And then there was a small Hispanic, contingent at the school. But man, we all got along. We weren't fighting. And this was way back in the 90s, man. We've come so far since the 90s until we've tried to tear it up. But we all got along. There was nothing about, like, there was no problems with race on that team. I mean, I ain't saying it was perfect. And I'll never say like racism doesn't exist anymore, because it does. but nothing's perfect. Like, I mean, you're not. I guess what I'm saying is the disagreements we would have on that team weren't because of what color we were. It was just disagreements because we were just different. We just saw things a little different. But that's not an inherent thing. I mean, you put two people that are different colors in the same environment, and they're going to see things probably the same way. That, to me, that proves that it's not a color thing. It's just a where you're from and what your experiences have been thing. So can we please, for the love of God, stop boiling all these things down to the most obvious difference, which you don't have to be like a massive intellect to go, oh, I'm white, he's black. That must be why we're fighting. Like, you're not smart if you say that. You're like a dumbass, because that's the most obvious reason. It's the simplest reason. It's the most lazy excuse for why you're having a difference of opinion. It's destructive. Like, why? It's almost like it's a new pyramid scheme. Like being a race baiting sports media personality is like a new pyramid scheme. You say something completely ridiculous that I feel like these people, they don't even really believe it, but they say it because they know they're going to get likes and they know they're going to get follows and they know that it's going to, validate somebody else's thoughts about it. And now they're going to start building this following, and with a following, you get money. They're a bunch of hustlers, y'all. It's a pyramid scheme. And then you grab a couple people, and those two people go out and tell their two people about it, and so on and so forth. It's a big ass Ponzi scheme. Y'all are taking part voluntarily in a pyramid scheme about race. It's ridiculous. It's stupid. Stop doing it. I think there is a divide in this country, especially when we start talking about sports, but I don't think it has anything to do with skin color. Hear me out. Let me use like the most latest example of this, kind of, racism nonsense crap to illustrate my point. I think the one we could all think about and point to is this whole Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese. There's a lot of people that'll tell you Caitlin Clark doesn't get treated the same way that Angel Reese does. And that may be true. But those people will go on to tell you that the reason that Caitlin Clark doesn't get treated the same way that Angel Reese does is because Angel Reese is white, Angel Reese is black, Caitlin Clark is white. So let's just talk about some of these things that both of them have done. Last year was the can't see me gesture, right? A lot of people, I did, jumped on Angel Reese about the way she behaved after I don't even know. Was it the national championship game? It was a Final Four game for sure. LSU against Iowa, where they won the game. She followed her around the court, like during I guess the game was in hand, but the game was still going. So there was like a timeout period, and Angel Reese is like following her around to get in front of her to do can't see me, right in Caitlin Clark's face. And Caitlin Clark would turn away and she would walk around again and do it. Like, she was taunting the shit out of her, like mocking her with this gesture. And so a lot of people jumped on him. And then the reaction was, well, Caitlin Clark did it and y'all didn't get mad. Caitlin Clark did You Can't See Me and y'all didn't get mad. Y'all must be racists. She did it to her teammates. Like she made a shot or something and looked at her teammates and did the can't see me gesture. She wasn't doing it to the crowd. She wasn't doing it to other team. She wasn't doing it to any particular player on the court. She was doing it to her teammates. Like, you have to understand that there's a difference there, right? Like, you can't, right? Y'all get that, right? People get that there's a difference between, just kind of celebrating with your team. Like in baseball, you see these guys hit a double. As soon as they touch the base at second, they get up and they got like this celebration that they do over to their dugout. Whatever, there's a million different ones. But they do that with their dugout. Y'all know that's not the same as like turning to the opposing team's dugout and doing that, right? Like, y'all get that? So the divide is in a subtle difference between what actually happened. and how people react to that and how people feel about that, not skin color. If Caitlin Clark had a history of following people around and mocking people like that, I would say the same shit about her. Let's talk about the trash talk. Another thing people bring up all the time was, well, Caitlin Clark's one of the biggest trash talkers. Trash talking's part of sport. 100%. I did it. One of the nicest and most quietest guys I knew in high school was a world-class shit talker on a football field. And I played college football with him as well. And same thing. He the first time I heard him talking shit on a football field, my jaw almost hit the ground because I could not believe it was this dude. So I get it, man. Talking trash, but you talk trash directly to a player on the field or the court between plays or in down moments during, basketball doesn't really have plays. That's trash talk. Like you knock a dude out, you knock a dude down, you talk a little trash to him, you go back to the huddle, right? I'm down with that. That's cool. Waving goodbye to fans after the game when you've beat them in the Elite Eight. Putting up the loser sign to the fans of the opposing team when you beat them. Following somebody around on the court so you can mock them with a gesture that they did the game before. That's another thing about the difference between the Caitlin Clark can't see me and the Angel Reese can't see me. It wasn't even the same game. That's not trash talk. That's like being unsportsmanlike, or in this case, unsportswomanlike. And so, yeah, some people don't like that. And some people will say, I don't like that. That's unsportsmanlike. She's not classy. Again, the divide is not in color. The divide is in the definition of trash talk. To some people, that may be considered trash talk. To me, it absolutely is not. I consider that just pretty blatant, unsportsmanlike shit. Like, what do the fans have to do with it? So, again, I would just challenge everybody on either side of this thing to really kind of challenge yourself, challenge your thoughts, challenge your initial reaction, because we're all going to have that, and there's nothing wrong with that. We're all going to have an initial reaction. Stuff happens, and you have a reaction. You go, I hated that, or I love that. And it's so crazy to me, not in a bad way. It's just crazy to me that people from different backgrounds can have two completely different reactions to the exact same thing. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem, though, is when the people that don't react the way you do, your first thing to do is call them out and say they're racist. That's a problem. And if we don't stop doing it, we're going to end up doing two things. We're going to ruin sports because people are going to stop watching it, and sports are going to die. People are going to get so sick of every time they turn on a game, or every time they turn on ESPN, or every time they listen to their favorite podcast, or people are talking about how the only reason this is happening is because she's white. And if she was black, this wouldn't be happening. And da-da-da-da-da. People get sick of that shit. Stop letting all these race hustlers convince you that everything is about color, because almost nothing is about color. It's just about your perception of what happened and your experience that makes you see that a little bit different than somebody else sees it. The truth ain't hard to find if you just step back and look for it a little bit. The other thing we're going to do is completely finish off the watering down of the definition of racism. I said something like, it was almost 20 years ago on a college football message board. Some topic about racism came up, and I was like, man, you guys throw around racism so much that it almost has no meaning anymore. Like the definition of racism has become so many things that it's to the point now where if everything is racism, then absolutely nothing can really be racism. And I said it before, like, there are things that are racist out there. We should focus on the real things that are racist, not turn everything that's not into something that's and claim like, oh my God, this is racism. We should be reserving that term for things that are actually racism. That's just my thoughts, folks. I tried to think long and hard about this and tried to set aside my initial reactions about any of this stuff and tried to really give it some thought and say, you know, why do people see these things differently? And I honestly think it's just because people come from different places and people have different experiences. And it's the experiences and the environment that you've lived in for so long that causes you to think a certain way. It's not your skin color. And people don't look at your skin color. They just look at your environment and your experience and how you outwardly sort of personify those things. So give that stuff some thought, folks. I don't know. Check us out next week. We'll talk some more Texas baseball. We'll probably talk some Texas spring football. Check out the podcast anywhere you listen to the podcasts. We are on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube at Horn Takes. Follow and subscribe will not cost you guys a thing. We would appreciate the support. Email me at horntakespodcast@gmail.com with all your questions, comments, concerns, and criticisms. I love them all. You guys have a good weekend. Get hooked.